I'm going to start this video by going right into Vcarve Pro, and we're going to show you what we're going to carve. So let's open an existing file. I've already created this, and I will show you the clip art that I used to create it. So we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to show you this clip art. This is what I brought in. I actually have a monthly subscription to Shutterstock. If you don't have that and you want some royalty-free images, some pretty cool ones in there. You can pretty much search for just about anything you want, and for a monthly fee you get a number of downloads, and this is one of the downloads that I selected. I kind of liked it and I like the theme, and we're going to put that on a cutting board. This particular start ended up to be this. Now, there's a lot of reasons I went this way. I'm going to be carving this board. This is a maple board. So I want to use contrasting colors for this particular board in the inlay itself. So it's going to be a two-part carve. What we're going to do is I'm going to do the outline of the glass, and I'm going to do the outline of this banner dark walnut. So to be this, the banner, and this will be the walnut. And then once this walnut piece is dried, we're going to put it back on the mill, and we're going to engrave this out of maple. I wanted to show you in this particular video how to bring in two colors and do two separate carves. That's what we're gonna do here now. I didn't go through everything to show you how I got from the bitmap image to this, but I will tell you that I did tweak this a bit. If you're familiar at all with Vcarve Pro, there's tons and tons of videos out there that show you how to do tracing on bitmaps. If you watch the first video in this series, I went through it step by step. And there's no different here. It's just learning your commands and learning your keyboard shortcuts so that you can manipulate what you have on the screen to get what you want. And it's kind of fun to do, actually. But what I want to do now is I'm going to go right into showing you what I did with this whole set of vectors, and I'm going to show you from when I created them. So I went ahead and made a female 1, a female 2, a male 1, and a male 2. Now, the female 1 consists of, and I'm selecting with the shift key, that's female 1. So all this will carve, these vectors will all carve in female 1. And then, of course, female 2 is the word wine. And of course, it's after we put in male 1. So let's jump over to male 1, and I will show you everything has been reversed. Okay, now I can move these around, select and make separate toolpaths so that with your male you can move it anytime you want. You just can't change the size of it. So you can take it out of this orientation and kind of, nest them where however you want to nest them to get the most use out of your inlay material. And that's probably what I'll do in this case. A lot of times we might want to change the angle or whatever just so we can get a different, make the grain pattern go in a different direction. So basically that's what I've done for the first part. And then the second part, I would carve the female, this part, okay? The female you cannot move. that has to stay wherever it is when you start creating. So basically what I've done is I take layer 1, and layer 1 is my main layer. That has everything on it. Everything, except for the reversed images of male 1 and 2. Doesn't have that on it. But female layer 1 has the whole thing on it, both male and female. You just haven't reversed them. So then I copy and create new layers, and I start there. And now when we go over to toolpaths, which we're going to do now, we're going to go to layer 1, or we're going to go to female 1. I'm going to take layer 1 and shut it off. I'm going to make female 1 active, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a Vcarve toolpath. And it's pretty simple. We're just going to go for it here. The only thing I'll need an end mill clearance tool for is probably this banner. Basically, that's really all I'm going to, well, maybe a little bit up here in the cook word, but I don't know what it'll do in here. So they are 1/8 of an inch apart. Perhaps it will do it, perhaps it won't. I doubt it will. But what we're doing here, whenever we do a female part, we have a start depth of 0, and my inlays, how I do it, is 0.2. That's my female. I use a 60-degree V-bit in this case. There's not a lot of detail. 60-degree would be perfect for this. And we're using the 1/8 inch end mill as a clearance tool. I do want to use the raster part of that, and I think that is about it. We're going to call this female 1. Number 1. And we're going to calculate. Oop, I think we need to select first. So we're going to select all of these, and we're going to calculate. And there we go. Now you get an idea of what this is going to look like. So let's preview all the toolpaths, and let's kind of turn this sideways a little bit here. So we're going to make inlays to fit all this. These will be the black walnut inlays, and of course this banner, you can see that's done, and then your stem to your glass is as well done. So that is it for our first female carve. And then we're going to do the male. We'll put the male in here. We'll carve this and glue that up. And then once this dries, we can go ahead and carve the word wine in there in maple so that we have a contrasting color. So that is all we need to do for that particular layer. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to come back here to the 2D view, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create the toolpath for the other female part, which is the word wine. And everything stays the same basically. We still have a 0 start depth because we're putting an insert in there, so it's going to have the same start depth. 0.2 is going to be our depth raster, but we're going to call this female 2. And select it and calculate it. And there we go. Now that's obviously that doesn't show. Let me reset this preview and then preview the toolpaths. Nope, I just want to preview the visible toolpaths. There we go. There are no tool paths. Okay, so we're going to do this one. And there we go. I'll get a handle on that eventually. Okay, and that's basically it right there in a nutshell. So now what we need to do is we need to go back here to the 2D view. We need to come up here to this, and let's create the mail for mail 1. Make that active. Close the preview. Come up here and select Vcarve. Now our settings are different for the mail, as you know. And if you watched the first video, and I hope you did, the start depth is going to be 0.18. My finish depth is going to be 0.02. So same tools, same clearance, all that, same, only this is going to be called mail, and we use a number sign 1, and we're going to select it all, and we're going to calculate, and there it is. It's basically it's created our mail portion. So we're going to reset the preview, and I'm going to preview the visible toolpaths, and there we go. Okay. Male and female on top of each other. Isn't that great? There we go. So, anyway, we're going to move along. We've done that. Now what we need to do is we go back 2D, change this from mail 1 to mail 2, highlight it, shut off the other one. We're going to reset the preview, and we're going to deselect the toolpaths. We're going to come up here to 2D view again, select this, go to V Carve, same settings. This is going to be mail number 2, and then let's make sure our settings are correct. 02, and calculate, and there we go. That is it. We've got, if you look over here on the right hand side, these are all our toolpaths. We've got a clearance for female 1, clearance for female 2, which shouldn't really amount to much, a clearance for female or male 1, and a clearance for male 2. So these are all our toolpaths. They're all ready to go. Let's select them all, and we're going to close that, and now I'm going to save them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save the selected toolpaths in to multiple files, visible toolpaths to multiple files. And no, we're not going to group. I'm going to run each file separately. I just feel more confident doing it that way. I know there's probably a reason why we would do it the other way, but I'm not ready for that. So pretty much it. I'm going to save these toolpaths, and I'm going to go in my toolpaths folder and click save. Now that should take care of it all. So let's close this out, and we'll head over to GSender. Hey, before we go any further, I want to say a big thank you to our sponsor, CNC Labs, the makers of the Longmill benchtop CNC, just like the one we have here in our shop. Go to their website, cnc.com, and order your mill today. You'll be so happy you did. Now let's get back to this week's project. Okay, we've done all the hard work, created this file, and got everything ready to go as far as sending it to the Longmill. So now what we need to do, I've already glued up the board. We're going to throw it in the Longmill, fasten it down, and then we're going to do a surfacing toolpath on this. I run all my inlays and most of my relief drawings I run from the center of the project. It's just easier for me to do that way. But I found the center of the board. Right now we're zeroing the X and Y, and then you'll see me grab the touch block, and this is the new auto zero touch block. If you don't have one of these or you don't have a touch block, this would be the one to get. It's pretty cool. Works really well. Now, once I got that done, we can run the program. And all I'm using here is a 1/4 inch end mill. And it is plenty for what we're planning on doing. That board isn't that big. Now we're going to hook up the dust collection, which incidentally it probably is not going to show up that it works too well, and that's because my dust collection needs replacement. So hopefully we'll get that done this year. But anyway, here we go. Surfacing just began. I won't bore you with the whole thing. We'll speed this up and get it ready for carving the female portion of the first inlay that we want to do. I had mentioned that we're going to use walnut to fill in that inlay. Now, I didn't do any preview to starting this toolpath, but same applies. I put an 1/8 inch end mill in to do the roughing, used the auto zero touch probe, and zeroed the top. My X and Y is already done. Here you see me putting the V bit in, and we do the touch probe to do the Z, and we start the program. And what that does is that puts the angle on all of the inlay, and you'll see it all start to come alive here once the V bit gets towards the top of the carve. Now the female portion is done, or the pocket I call it, and we can take this board right out. And what you see me doing here is putting some two-sided tape on the back of that piece of walnut that I glued up, and we're going to cut the male portion, or the inlay that goes in what we just cut out. Now here you see me installing the walnut board with that double-sided tape, and honestly that really works well, but for some reason I had it in my head that, maybe I should just put a clamp or two on that, and you'll see me do that here shortly. So as I said earlier, I could move the male portions around on the board so we can get the most use out of our material. We can kind of nest them in certain areas so that we get the best use out of what we're doing. That's what I did here. This particular carve took a bit to do. Wasn't difficult at all as far as it just a standard V Carve with the clearance tool. And now we'll run the V bit, and you'll notice that I cleaned off the material there just so I can make sure that that touch block gets a good reading. And we'll use the touch block a lot with inlay video, or with inlay projects, because you're constantly changing bits or changing materials, or something, and which requires you to use the touch block. So the V-bit goes and does its thing, and then we can go ahead and cut this out. You can see how easy it comes up, which kind of surprises me that it stays in there as easily as it comes up off of the wasteboard. Now, I normally would use my bandsaw for this, but in this case, it was just so much easier to use the crosscut saw and just get that inlay all cut out of there so I can glue it in. Now, testing the fit, I noticed it went in there pretty good, and just like the first video, it worked out really well. Now, while that is in the clamps, which I didn't show you here, I'm carving the male portion out of maple that goes in that banner that we talked about. Once I get this done, we'll put the cutting board back in and we'll take off the top of that first inlay, which you can see right here. This is quite a process to go through every time you do an inlay, but it is so much fun. There's so many things that you get to do. It's not just put it in there and let it run. You have to do a lot of things to make all this work. And here again, the touch block is going to be used. Right now I'm just eyeing this block or this toolpath at that X that you see with an 1/8 inch bit. It's a lot easier to find the center of a golf ball than it is to find the center of a basketball. So use a smaller bit and you'll be able to find your center. Now, I do that a lot right there. You just bang all the sawdust out. It's a good idea to get in the habit of doing that because that collet gets packed and the next thing you know, you got issues with a bit loosening up, or if you're using collets for depth collars, it's not giving you correct reading. Your heights are wrong. But I always make a habit of cleaning it out and just tapping on it with the tools. And that works really well. So we'll go ahead and surface this, and then we'll sand it off, and then we'll start the next carve. But first, you know what we're doing. We're setting our Z with the touch block. We'll go ahead and we'll put the dust collection back on, even though it's not really working all that great because of my vacuum system. You can see it's blowing it all over out there, but that's not the fault of the boot. It's really my dust system. It's not working properly, so I just decided to take it off totally and just let it fly. So we'll get this done. As you can see, I've sanded it. We've put it back in. I've got the 1/8 inch clearance bit in there, touch block again, and we'll run the last female carve. Now we switched over to the V bit. We set our Z and let the V bit do its thing. And it's kind of gratifying, once you do this 3-4 times, you get used to it. It's very gratifying to see just how nice it looks when it's finally done. Now I'm testing this fit here while I got it in the mill, and my goodness, I'm 6 for 6 on this, and it came out really, really good, nice and tight. So we're going to go ahead and throw some glue in there and glue this up, and we'll put it back on the mill after it's sat for a while, and we'll cut it off and then smooth everything out. But all in all, I think this one came out pretty good. There were a few challenges, but that's what we love. Got to get challenged. Well, everyone, this is a pretty stout little board here that I've put together. I decided to round over the edges. They come out to about 1 3/4 inches. I didn't go quite deep enough on the word cook here. I don't know if you could see that or not, but it still came out pretty good. I mean, for something I'm going to give away, I don't think anybody would reject this at all. I need to do another oil on it, but and another wax, but it should last a long time for whoever ends up getting this. So different techniques. This time I used 2 different colored woods, and I did 2 individual carves for the pockets. So but all in all, I think it came out great. It's a learning experience. I'm learning as I go, and I'm sharing all my experiences with you. So what I would do different, I would just make sure that I use a fatter font, a larger font. I hate to say fatter, but a larger, thicker font, just so I can get a little bit deeper here. I'm using a 60-degree V-bit. That's all I'm using in this series. So if I want to go deeper with this particular font, I can use a narrower bit, 15-degree, 10-degree. But in this case, I'm just using a 60-degree. Number 3 is on the mill. So we're going to get after that one, and you know, we'll see how it comes out. But if you liked what you saw here, I'd appreciate it if you click the like button. And if you haven't subscribed, you know what to do. Click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. YouTube will let you know when I post again. So until next time, be safe out there.